high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Catholic. It's Kari Janice here, and I'm very excited to be back with my co-host Mike Walsh, my good friend Mike Walsh.
Oh, well, I'll take both. That's perfectly fine. And we're on the road, and not in Rowan Catholic Campus Ministry. We're not in Glassboro together.
I had to drive somewhere, but it wasn't the vault. We're not in the vault.
We're not in the vault. We're not in Glassboro. We're not in Williamstown. We're not in Wildwood.
I know.
This is a brand new location for us.
It's fun.
One of my favorites.
I'm on a rolling chair, so I'm rolling around. It's kind of nice.
No, you and I are in beautiful, bucolic Woodbury, New Jersey, in the pastoral offices of Holy Angels Parish across from St. Patrick's Church, where I was married.
Oh, nice.
So this is actually
awesome.
Yeah, I lived in Woodbury for about 5 years after we were married. And so anytime I get to come back here, I'm very happy. And the pastor is one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Yes.
So
I've been to like 2 or 3 weddings at this parish as well.
It's a
Friends
great...
of mine. It's definitely 3. I can name 3 right now that I've been to.
I find it to be an excellent wedding parish.
It's
a good church to get married in. It's very, very beautiful. The sanctuary is really nice. It's also very warm. It's warm. There's a lot of wood, a lot of dark wood in there, and it just has this like nice warm feel to it. Of course, I also got married though, so I'm probably biased.
It's a beautiful church. It's a beautiful
really
church. Their side altars and they're very nice.
They really are. So if you ever get a chance to come to Woodbury, make sure you check out St. Patrick's Church. It's absolutely beautiful at Holy Angels Parish.
Yes, for sure.
So we are here tonight because you've had one heck of a week of stuff you're putting on. You and I haven't seen each other in a month or so, probably.
I know. Time flies.
I missed the parish picnic at St. Bridget's, where you and I both spend a lot of time.
Yes.
But I heard it was a very nice affair.
It was really great. It was just a joyous day, a beautiful day, a nice sunny day, great family time. JP crying because he lost the potato sack race. I mean, it was great. It was a good time. It was really great.
Well, how old's JP now again?
He's 5.
I believe that's an appropriate response.
Yeah, he was definitely very bummed about it. So then they're like, well, you win second place. Yay. And gave him the prize, and he was happy.
But your Rowan Catholic Campus Ministry folks are doing a great job. I popped in during your Life Chain this past weekend.
Yeah,
that was great.
Good. Yeah.
That was really nice. It was sort of led between Father Gallagher and your Respect Life leader, Kat, who we had on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great, and she gave a nice sort of talk to everybody who was there. And I liked it because it was a great combination of the Catholic ministry folks and the parish folks who were there.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really nice to come together to pray peacefully, to stand witness right across the street from a university with many students, many women, and it was just a great witness to life, to women. We care about you and your children and your babies and all life. So it was a great witness, and people stopped, people slowed down. We had a few people, the pastor next door from the church had left his services and was like, amen, amen. I'm like, we got to invite him next year and his congregation to be a part of this.
That's great. That's a great little church that's next to you. It's kind of like a Black Christian church, and the folks there are fantastic. They were very complimentary to everybody who was out there. And I like that. Me, I love whenever Catholics can be very public. But it was then that you pointed out to me the kids that live across the street who had put up the Rowan Catholic Campus Ministry symbol on their windows, looking out, and I love that. I thought that was great.
Yep, we always give witness wherever we are, and that logo follows us. My background in graphic design, so anytime I put something on Instagram, I'm like, put the logo on it, so it is a great witness in our faith and in what we believe in, and it's based off of 1 John 4:19. We love because he loved first. So we put it out there, and our students reflect that, and even in their windows to our, to the campus. So it's really good.
Well, you seem to have a great batch this year. They're a month in, and I've been really impressed by them.
Thanks.
So good job.
Yeah, praise God. It's been
to shepherd them.
Great semester so far, and our e-board leaders are very strong in their faith, strong in their beliefs, and their morals, their values, and they're just going. The semester's going. And just like college semesters happen, it's like a blink of the eye. You're already on break in between. So I'm gearing up for that, kind of.
You mean kind of. You're looking forward to the break a little bit?
I mean, we're 5 weeks in now, so about a third of the semester's already done. So it just flies by. So Yeah, I'm always looking forward to a little break. It's always nice.
No,
but, I mean, there's time before that, but it's. Well, I'm just saying it's going quick, and I know it'll be here before we know it.
Well, you do a ton of work, because anybody who's been on your social media will realize that weekly schedule you have. I actually don't know how you keep it all. And actually, I'm taking you away from stuff tonight too, because we have a very special guest today, and he was with your Rowan folks last night.
Yes.
Which I want to hear about, because I saw the photos and it was amazing. And then he's doing another presentation here for the parish and the surrounding area. So who do we have with us tonight?
Yeah, so we have with us the one, the only Jason Evert, the go-to chastity guy, who is here with us. So welcome, Jason.
Good to be on. Thank you.
Good to have you with us. So we're here to share a little bit. You know, you gave 2 presentations in our diocese, and we'll speak a little bit more about them. But tell us a little bit about your background, your history, and kind of how Chastity Project started and to get you to where you are today. Because you've been doing this over 20 years now, right?
Yeah, I think 26 years now. So it started back when I was in college. I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, and I was leading high school retreats at the time, just volunteering. And on the retreats, the kids would really open up to me about what they were struggling with, and a lot of it had to do with relationships, sexuality, broken families, and it just seemed like they had no formation on the topic of human love and chastity. And so I saw that need there. But then I also was doing sidewalk counseling in front of an abortion clinic in Pittsburgh for 3 years, talking to women who are having an abortion in 45 minutes, and I just started really feeling late. Like, why am I meeting her now? And she's having an abortion within the hour. Like, why couldn't I have met her when she was 15? Because maybe if she learned about chastity then, she never would have dated this guy to begin with. And I kind of felt like I was standing on the banks of a flooded river just throwing sandbags on there when there's a dam broken a quarter mile upstream. And so long as everyone's just focused on doing damage control, no one's actually going to the root of the issue. It's like we're all dealing with the supply of abortion, but no one's focusing on the demand for it, which was on chastity. And so I realized, well, maybe instead of giving her the talk at 24 years of age in front of an abortion clinic with her boyfriend kind of nudging her in, maybe I need to back up a little bit. And so at the time I was doing the crisis pregnancy counseling and the youth ministry stuff, I was also reading Love and Responsibility by Pope John Paul II for the first time. And I realized, like, this is the antidote. Like, this is it. And so I just started sharing bits of that with young people, and the light bulbs would go on, and it just felt like, wow, this is it. This is kind of where the world's kind of deep hunger and then like my gifts kind of intersected. And so just started sharing it, and I got hired by Catholic Answers out in San Diego to do apologetics and evangelization. But I said, my heart's with the high school kids. I just want to be in the schools and that kind of thing. And so we opened the doors to start speaking in some of the assemblies, and it snowballed pretty quickly to 100,000 kids a year. And so we've been doing it now for 26 years on 6 continents to more than 2 million teens in person. So we start at 7th grade, but a lot of the work, most work's in high school, and then we'll do some stuff for college students as well, and then on occasion for parents, but trying to really focus mostly during those critical teenage years. Pope Francis said that marriage preparation begins at birth. And so that's kind of the idea, that we're not waiting till 6 months before your wedding date to start getting the house in order. Like, we need to be doing marriage prep for 15-year-olds. Remote, proximate, and immediate marriage prep is the way the church looks at it, but everybody focuses on the immediate. And so we've got to do this vocational preparation a decade before the wedding if we hope it's going to last.
Yeah. And I'm sure with today's society and the way things are going, like, kids are getting exposed to so much younger. Like, I mean, I think you can even start giving some of these talks to like 4th and 5th grade, even younger, sadly, just the way society and the internet, and it's so available today. And I'm sure you can see that within the talks.
Certainly in the state of New Jersey, it's something that needs to be at an earlier age, because we've seen what the Department of Education is doing in the public schools, and not having that counterbalance there. You'll kids in our school systems will not realize that that's an option. I mean, that's not something that's really discussed. It's not really in the materials, and that's, I mean, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. That's one of the benefits of our Catholic schools, but not everybody can go to a Catholic school. Not everybody has the availability for a Catholic school to get this. So that's why works like this, the work you do, and many of your colleagues in the field are so imperative. And you're someone who's worked with young people for your entire career. Is this a topic you've been able to preach to them?
Oh,
from time
absolutely.
To time?
It's I mean, my husband and I have given chastity talks at various youth groups and used your information all the time. Jason, quote you and share some of the same stories that you share, and always recommend chastityproject.com to parents and teens, and now it's opened up to many different avenues of chastity. It's not even just about no sex before marriage, but it's the whole gender ideology and so many other avenues that have gone into what chastity actually means, and parents struggling and kids struggling, and private talks and main talks definitely have used Jason's material, and of course, Pope St. John Paul II's material as well, Theology of the Body, to just share with others the importance of it. And is it something that comes up all the time, all the time in youth, and now in college ministry as well? Definitely comes up a lot.
This is really a question for both of you, because you both worked in the sphere for a long time. But Jason, I'll ask you first. Do you find the kids to be a little bit more open to it than the parents? I found that parents sometimes have a lot of difficulty with the concept of chastity.
Oh, kids are a piece of cake. No, they're so much easier than the grown-ups.
You can win them over.
Yeah, the grown-ups, it's a tough nut to crack. I remember someone once explaining that tenured university professors, they said there's a certain crustacean that lives in the ocean that once it attaches to its host organism, it'll actually eat its own brain for nourishment and then just stay there for the rest of its life. And they said it's like a tenured university professor. Once they latch in, they don't learn anything else. And I think unfortunately sometimes the adults, they operate that way, that I have my, I'm set in my ways, and I know what I think about what the church teaches on human sexuality, and sometimes it's not in line with the church teaches. And so the young people, they tend to think they know what they believe, oh yeah, sex is bad and dirty, you're going to hell, blah, blah. But they go in there and then they realize, okay, this guy's not shaming us, he's not wagging a finger in our face and giving us guilt trips and scare tactics. This guy's real, and he's relatable, and he's just honest and blunt. And I can relate to what he's saying, because, I want love, but I feel like I'm just drowning and it's counterfeit, and I want the real thing, but I just don't know how to find and maintain what it is that I want. And so I think if we take that right approach with them, they're so much more receptive. The kids today were just, the applause afterwards at the assembly, they were so hungry, and they mobbed the tables full of chastity books and materials. And they're like, I didn't get the commitment card. Do you have any more of those? And I'm like, sorry, we ran out, and it's like what Steve Jobs said. He said that people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And so we have to show them chastity, and then they'll desire and realize they actually do desire it.
Yeah. Would you agree, by the way, with what he had said?
100% agree. And honestly, working more with youth themselves than the parents. It's just easier. And, not only can you win them over with your own love, your own witness, but with the facts itself. And exactly, if people are set in their ways, there is no changing them. And, there is, through prayer and through, sometimes chipping away at it. But it's a little bit easier to go to the youth themselves. And I do see the value in that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to, with the adults, we have to rely a little bit more on the miraculousness of our faith.
Holy Spirit, please come.
And sometimes they need the chastity talk more than the kids do.
Also
we can't
true.
just think, parents good, kids. So a lot of times when we do our evening presentations, we kind of use the teenagers as bait to get the parents to come. It's not, don't dump your kid off at CCD and come back in 2 hours. No, we want you here hearing what I'm saying to your kid, because you're the primary sex educator, not me.
Yeah.
And so we want those conversations, those doors to open up, instead of just drop them off. We'll catechize him, and then you pick him up and he sticks his earbuds on, and that's that. No, let's get the talk going.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about last night with the college students, maybe, and then we can.
I was really disappointed that I couldn't go. My son had a baseball game that I absolutely had to be there for.
It's important.
It is. It's part of the deal being a parent. But I love going to Rowan University when you are on the campus, in the middle of everything that's going on. I didn't realize it that the location of the talk last night was going to be in the pit, which we've talked about on the podcast before, which is this very central area in the student union that is completely open to 3 floors of everything.
Buyers.
Coffee shops, study lounges, food.
It is a target-rich environment for being able to sort of publicize our faith, and this being a very unique topic, I have to imagine, to most college students who. I'm willing to bet that most college students, when they go to most of them, when they go off to college, are looking for that freedom of not having to, and thinking that, this is not a freedom topic, that this is a restrictive topic, but your perspective must be completely different on that.
Yeah, no, I loved the venue because there were students studying up in their desks and sitting over here, and you could tell, like, what is this? Just people walking by and then stopping and listening. So I loved that it wasn't just tucked away in the Catholic Newman Center.
Yeah.
That it was just like, hey, this message is for everybody. And so, God willing, the hearts were changed that weren't expecting to hear the message last night. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could get a gauge of the crowd, and I would say, Jason, you were asking me earlier, like, how many do you think is going to be Newman? How many do you think is going to be students? And I would say it's probably about 70% of people I knew, and about 30% of people that I was like, never saw this person before. And we actually gained some new members of our campus ministry through last night. Yeah, about 4 new people joined our group chat just from last night alone. That was really great. So it was a great evangelization tool, and also a great way to bring in other young adults from other parishes. They were able to come, and I did see some of those. And then just the other people just passing by. There was some people I just saw up in the 3rd floor, and they were studying, and they weren't studying. They were listening. Like, the books were in front of them, laptops open, and they're just sitting there hanging over the edge, just kind of listen to what Jason had to say. And, it was just incredible. And the books were gone before half of the presentation was even over, so that was great. And some of our students are asking for more books, and that message was heard on the hearts of the college students at Rowan University, and that was the goal, to not have it at St. Bridget's Church, not have it anywhere else, and book it in that student center pit. And the goal was met. Thank you, Jesus, thank you, Holy Spirit, and thank you, Jason. It was just totally met through your words and through the Holy Spirit, like, working in that student center pit last night. And it was awesome to witness. It was exciting. And continuing on a high today from it. And it's like coming off a retreat, you get all excited, you're like living that high. Like, that's what I was feeling all today. And I know our students were too. They were talking about it at the house today. It was great.
That's really great to hear. So what was your message to the students?
Well, the talk is called College Dating 101. And the idea is that by the time they get to college, a lot of these Catholic kids especially have already heard everything they're not supposed to do in relationships. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then they get to college, it's like, okay, like, I know everything not to do with a woman, but, like, what am I supposed to do with one? It's like, well, we don't teach that. Good luck in college. Bye. And it's just like, then they get dumped into this culture, and it's like, okay, how do we navigate through all this stuff? How do we find, build, maintain relationships of lasting love? So we give them about just a half dozen practical strategies, starting with enjoy the season of singleness in your life, that focus on the friendship, really get to know this person before you dive into a romantic relationship. And then, moving on to the next points of, instead of, like, always looking for the perfect person, look inside, like, what do you need to deal with before you begin your vocation? Because if there's some stuff going on in your life right now that would be toxic to a marriage, deal with it. Don't just sweep it under the rug and think marriage is going to be some kind of car wash. Like, if it's an addiction or lack of ambition or self-absorption or pride or whatever, like, deal with it. Or mental health issues that you just don't want to focus on, like, deal with it. And then the next one was, like, focusing on your fears. Maybe guys are afraid of initiating relationships, and why is that? And often they don't know how to even start them, so we give them very practical tips. Okay, here's how to ask a girl out. Not over a text message. Use the word date. Plan the date. Don't take her to the movies. And just walking them through the really nitty-gritty, practical, just non-religious, basic courtship stuff they never get taught how to do. And then talking to the girls as well about, not falling into passivity, but also not being aggressive, and trying to find that balance when you're wanting to have a romantic relationship or dating relationship, but no guys are asking. And the guys are just, like, on the dating apps. And, like, so how do you get something going without despairing and settling? And so we talked to the girls about that. And then also when you're entering the relationship, this is kind of the fourth point of just defining the relationship, not kind of dating, not kind of this gray zone. Like, how do you have clarity and deciding into a relationship instead of just sliding into it? And then the fifth point was about guarding the innocence of that relationship, the importance of chastity and purity, to free you to love, to free if you're being loved. And the sixth point, we talked about cohabitation and why not to move in together until after the wedding. And the final point was talk about chastity inside of marriage, where we talk about family planning and not contracepting, using NFP if you need to instead, and the whys behind that. And then just how to live it all out and staying connected to their faith community and the sacraments and things like that. But the young people, they're so receptive to this. People are like, are we going to have protesters? Like, nothing. I mean, they're just hungry. And it's, like I said, it's not this guilt trip type of thing. It's like, hey, here's what to do. You know, because you want love. Sometimes we don't know how to find it.
There's a lot of facts, a lot of practicality, and just things that you're like, well, we shouldn't be saying this, but we need to, because it has been lost in society today. It has been lost in what courtship really is and what it looks like. And, hearing our students' reaction to that, even ones that are formed in their faith, and they still need to hear it too. And the ones that are really formed in their faith, living this out, dating correctly, I said to them, this is just a boost for you. We all need that little boost. Sometimes we could fall into feeling despair, or, when is that person going to come? I'm trying to live my life the right way and look for the right person. So really was a good boost for the ones that are they're living it out already, but they're still kind of, you can fall into that despair sometimes, or why isn't this happening? So I think for everybody, no matter where they were at in their faith, from the passerby to our regular students to people that came because they heard about it, there was something for everybody in there, and a lot of good stuff. I mean, all good stuff. It was an hour and a half long. I mean, it didn't stop. And then the questions afterwards had a line, and they said, "Oh, be out by 10." I was like, "Oh, we'll be out by 10." And here we are, got back to Newman House 10:49. It was or excuse me, 9:49, right before 10 o'clock. And I'm like, wow, we just hit that 10 o'clock time, because students wanted to talk, students wanted books, they wanted autographs, they wanted pictures, because Jason, you have this just magnetic personality that draws people in through your gifts and through the Holy Spirit working through you with what God has given to you in so many beautiful ways. And I really just thank you for sharing those gifts last night with our students, because that for me as a campus minister, and for Father Rossi as our chaplain, he was so happy. He wrote me this beautiful text afterwards, just thanking for organizing it all, and because we know the value of it, and we saw it last night. Okay, this this was so valuable to give our community of Rowan University. My alumni, I always mess this up. My alma mater. Oh, there you go. I'm alumni from it. The Latin kills me. I should know it. I'm Catholic. I know.
You're a graduate. Don't worry about it.
I know. My alma mater. Yeah, I was really grateful, because I know, going there, oh man, there was just so many times where I wish we had something like that when I was there. So I'm just happy I can give it now, 20 years later.
You just wish you could get every student on campus to sit down. Just if you could just hear this coming in.
I will tell you, if there's one thing that I do that as a campus minister, maybe you go through this, maybe you have tips for me on this, but I'm like, why isn't everybody here? Where are they? No excuse is good enough. I was kind of actually, it was starting to take me over a little bit, because I'm looking around, I'm like, this one's not there, or that one's not there, getting upset, in my, why aren't they here? But all I could say is, we prayed, we asked the Lord to send whoever's supposed to be there, so that the ones that need to hear it were there. And
if it'll make you feel any better, the football players say it, and the soccer players say it, and the softball players say it, and the baseball players say it. When the entire student body isn't around that field at whatever their sporting event is, it's always the exact same feel. And the same thing is with the theater groups. So
you just want everyone there.
It's just the nature.
You're passionate.
It's the way you want to be. I mean, but I would tell you to know you're in good company with every other club and entity and sporting group there.
And Jesus just started with 12 people anyway, too. So he managed to. It wasn't all numbers.
I was on the radio at Rowan for a semester, and I could not figure out why the entire school wasn't listening to my radio show.
I could tell you why.
Well, I know why. The podcast has proven that reason.
I'm just
kidding. But back then I was like, man, I don't understand why all students don't listen to this. And then it's like, because they have 1,000 other things. I know.
Time and commitments are tough in college,
but that's why you've been so good. Not to be too complimentary to you, outside of my nature, but. The fact that you're doing this year after year and bringing new speakers in all the time and making it very public. I mean, I know I have to assume in that same pit area you're going to have you're going to have the Ashes distribution again this year, probably, right?
Yeah, we'll check with Father Rossi. I mean, that's his call.
I mean, true, but hopefully you'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
because that was a great experience last year when you did it so publicly. I just want to go back to Dating 101 real quick with you, Kari, which is that something you've been in the job now for 2 years here, and maybe you did this with high schoolers and actually you were working with young adults in the old job as well. Have you helped people with how to date? You work with young people all the time.
I mean, I would say specifically the females would naturally gravitate towards those questions. Can I talk to you? Having relationship problems all the time. Males too. I've had some grown men crying on my shoulder, and these moments where you're just like, wow, there's a lot of vulnerability there, and they're definitely sharing it with me. So yes, I can say definitely more females, but there's been some males as well. And yeah, you definitely walk with them, you talk with them, you share with them. Again, I've quoted Jason a lot of times. I also just quoted what our church teaches, and what about like what we should be doing in that time of discernment for vocation, and always leave all the options open for them. I don't say like, oh well, your future spouse is there. Like for the men, I very specifically say, well, keep asking what God is calling you to do. It might be this future spouse you're praying for, but pray for your future vocation, because you don't know what God is calling you to. And so I always keep it wide open for them, and talk very honestly with them. And I think students and young adults recognize your authenticity. They really do.
They do.
If you're authentic with them, they understand it, they see it, and they can see right through that. And so, I never will sugarcoat anything. I will keep it real. But of course, you have to deliver it with charity. And a lot of times that's, I'm like praying the Holy Spirit, give me the right words right now, because this is hard, and I know the people involved, and I know the personalities involved, but definitely, yes, have been down that road with them. And it's an important part of ministry. It really is. It's a very, very much working with the young church is just so relational. It's all about those relationships. And I'm sure, Jason, you see it from a little different perspective, because you come in, you deliver this message, and then you almost have to hand it over to the campus minister or the theology teachers or whoever is the next person in their life. How's that look from your perspective, actually?
Well, it's kind of like you're the boots on the ground. I fly by and I just drop like a bunker busting bomb, and I just keep going on to the next target location. So, you're tilling the soil.
Yeah.
And then I come and I, drop, some munitions down upon it, or, and then you're doing the follow up. But we're all working together, just on our different little special forces units that God has called us to do. And because it can't be all me. Because what if it were just a bunch of motivational speakers running around doing a talk by? I mean, really, how much would that really work? But then likewise, to have someone like me to be able to come in to support what you're doing, of just, okay, you're Kari, you're always saying, the message, you're the campus minister, but like, wait a minute, other people in the world agree with you. And like, this is reinforcing what you taught us. And so to me, it's a synergetic type of relationship where we're just doing the work in the gospel, but we're plowing, one's planting the seeds, one's plowing, one's watering it. And it's just like, God's the one who causes the growth, and he entrusts us with the gifts that he's given us to just do the task that he's telling us to do. But I think it's helpful for me as a speaker to realize, like, hey, so much of the fruitfulness of my work depends upon people given gifts that I don't have. To be the boots in the ground, to be there in that pastoral day-to-day grind and building the relationships with these people and walking with them. Because when you think of what really brings you to Christ, it's not, what are the top 5 motivational speeches you've heard? It's like, I can't remember one. Okay, what are the top 5 people that have brought you closer to Christ? And it's like boom, 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 and they're all people in your daily life. And so, I have a high estimation for those in the trenches doing the daily grind of youth ministry and things like that, because I just know how important that relational discipling work is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So last night was at Rome, was at College 101. So today we're at Holy Angels Parish in Woodbury. We mentioned that earlier. So how does this talk differ than the one you gave last night?
Yeah, well, it's 95% different. And so this is more the basic chastity talk. And so it's for basically 13 and up. So it's going to be predominantly 8th grade through 12th grade students tackling the stuff that they're wrestling with, whether it's like, well, when should I start dating, or how far is too far, or what about pornography? Why is that bad? Or how do I start over if I've made some mistakes? And just explaining them the why of chastity. Does this make sense, or is this some prudish, neurotic attitude towards sexuality, and how it's not that, and how chastity really frees you to love? And so it's an introduction to chastity, and so we're kind of selling them on that. And John Paul II said chastity can only be thought of in association with the virtue of love. So we try to really make that connection clean in their minds. And then as soon as the talk is over, we have a time of Eucharistic adoration and confession. So if all they get is just a motivational speech from me and some books, well, I mean, good luck with that. But if they can actually have a conversation with God and have a relationship with him, then this thing's going to last. Because chastity, to me, doesn't really begin until you realize you can't do this on your own. Until you've fallen enough on your face to realize, okay, this is not going to fly. So I'm like, pull myself up by my own bootstraps. It's not about like really getting stronger. If anything, it's more just acknowledging my weakness and like, okay, I really need divine assistance to live out this virtue. And when you come to that realization is when you begin to have more breakthroughs, I think, instead of thinking I just got to white knuckle it and try harder. And so we want to bring them into the sacramental life of spending time in adoration, going to confession. So it's not just the kids going, the parents. We want the parents going to confession as well. It's so important for kids to see mom and dad in line for confession, because then it's like, ooh, even mom needs to tell her mother at the church he's sorry. Even dad needs to tell his father that he's sorry. It's not just something you get spoon-fed in religion class. They have to see it with their own eyes. And so that's the idea behind Purified. Let's get the teens and the parents together to hear a talk directed at the teens, but that the parents are listening to. So on the drive home, hey, what did you think about that story you told with this? Or what about that thing? Because I know it can be awkward for parents. They're not entirely sure, how do we broach this subject? But if I can kind of break the ice and then get those doors of communication open, hopefully they'll take it from there.
Yeah, that's so powerful for the family. I mean, to be able to witness that and be able to share on the way home, and days and weeks to come for sure. Or when it comes up then in their life, and something comes up in class or something comes up on the school bus or whatever, the parents are now a little more equipped, and the wall is broken down. And that's so key. I was just thinking so much how powerful it is to do the adoration and confession built in. How many priests do you have for these kind of events? Like, how do you prepare for them?
It depends on the size of the event. I mean, sometimes I'll have a dozen priests there, sometimes 3 or 4. It all depends on how many. And what's beautiful to see is the kids go, the parents go. And if I tell them, hey, go to confession on Saturday afternoon at your church,
not gonna
3 of them will go. But if we say, hey, you don't even have to go to confession. Confession came to you. It's right there. Go.
Right there.
Then boom, they get up, they go, and there's 15 kids in line for each priest, and the parents are in there, and so it's really powerful, because speaking only does so much. I mean, a sacramental life is really taking it to the next level. I mean, to be able to actually forgive their sins and take it away, and then go home out of the church as pure as the day that they were baptized. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do that with a nice talk. That's why we want to bring the sacrament right into it. So.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Kari, in your work, particularly with youth ministry, were you able to engage confession into your activities like that?
Oh, always, yeah.
Really?
Of course, every retreat, we would also set up a lot of times special confessions for our youth. We would time certain events around. Okay, we're going to go to confession first, and then go to mass together. It's also always encouraged. So yeah, it's been the sacraments are so vital to ministry. I mean, you're dead without it. You're dead. I mean, it's just. When we have the Lord involved in His church, that is how we can have success for sure in the faith and in the lives of the young church. I know for sure also adoration has been a key part of our ministries, my ministries that I've ran. Like our core team leadership, I always had them do a holy hour once a month together as a group to pray before our meetings. I love Mother Teresa, St. Mother Teresa, and I always think about how she said to her sisters, she said, Mother, we have so much work to do. How can we make a whole holy hour? Can we just do a half hour? And Mother said, well, then you need 2 holy hours before the work, and that's I use that all the time. I said, if our spiritual life isn't first priority, then we got it all wrong. So in ministry, it is so important to incorporate that. And often other youth ministers will meet with me like, oh, can I pick your brain a little bit? I say, sure. First thing I say to them is, well, how's your prayer life? How is your faith life? Are you going to daily mass? Are you frequenting confession? Are you going before the Lord in holy hour? If that's not set, you can't give to others what you don't have. It's the most important thing. So, even for another youth minister, another campus minister, the people that work in this field of giving out, we need to be filled first. We need to have the Lord within us first to be able to give it out to others. And so it's so important and just so perfect the way this talk is set up tonight. I wish we could have had adoration in the middle of the student center. That would have been nice. That would have been something. Maybe a goal for next year.
Procession through campus.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. I definitely.
You've done I thought there was
during COVID they did it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they did it during COVID when there was only outdoor stuff before my time, and we were planning it for the 40 hours last year. It just didn't pan out because there's a lot of restrictions with what's allowed and where it's allowed, and the Rome Public Safety Department, and so there's a lot of red tape, and it kind of got a little close to the time frame. We thought it was just going to be easy, boom, go through campus, and so we had to pull back last fall on that, and we didn't revisit it this year because with the timing of certain things, but it's on the radar, and it needs to happen, and I would go crazy when it does.
And as someone who's lived in the area, Rowan has actually been very kind to us over the years, and there was a Lenten procession through the campus right before COVID hit. The first time or whatever. And that was actually a beautiful that was one of the...
Are you talking about the Stations of the Cross? Because we just did that through campus.
Was that...
We did it also this past spring.
Well, this was back before you got there.
Yeah, they might have did it then, but we do Stations of the Cross through campus. Good. So that is nice.
It was Stations. I'm sorry. It was Stations. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so we did do that last semester, and it was beautiful. And again, people watching, looking. So that's allowed. It's like certain things... Yeah, again, a lot of red tape at a public universities, I'm sure, in general. So it's just working within the means that you're allowed to do and then getting the permission to do what you can.
You know, it's funny. I'm listening to the two of you speak right now, and I'm an old man and, Gen Xer. And I'm remembering back to my own high school and college days. And, either none of this was available to me or it didn't exist or, this kind of focus just wasn't there. It was a completely different world. And I often wondered, like, how different my young adult life would have been had this been there. Would you say, Kari, you've been doing this for a long time now. It's not a reference to your age, just you've been a professional at this for quite some time. A lot of your people are now having kids of their own, right? They've gone through these processes.
Yeah.
Do you think that having been someone who's been ministering to these kind of topics, that you've seen the fruit of the labor?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have priests and sisters that have come out of our ministry. So, those are great fruits right there. Great holy families that have come out and met, at the young adult group. Because I've been at it for 15 years. So some of them have kids their own that are 5, 6 years old. Holy marriages, holy families. But, we kind of harken back to the parable of the seed that falls on, like, some fall on the fertile ground, some fall on the rocky ground, some get scorched up from the world. So you get a little bit of everything that come out of your ministries, but you can only hope that the soil that you were in charge of, to kind of harken back to Jason earlier, like of tilling that soil and doing your part to water it, that it is there. And I do see a lot of young people coming back and like just saying thank you. Or actually last night there was a girl there at the talk. She came and I said, "Oh, you look really familiar. Were you like a student here, or have we met through ministry or anything?" And said, "I can't place where I know you from." She goes, "Oh, actually, remember 2 years ago you and your husband spoke at the Newman House?" I said, "Oh, you were at that talk?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, that was before I got hired there." And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, that's great. I'm glad you were there." She goes, "I actually still think about things you said, and just hearing stuff like that. I'm like, okay, like I'm doing what the Lord wants me to do. I'm just doing my part here." And, bringing someone like Jason in, like you said, he's just kind of dropping those bombs. It's like, you need that. You need that to keep inspiring and to keep me going too, to keep me knowing that, okay, I got to keep doing my part. Other people are doing their part. We're all working together here in the vineyard of the Lord and doing our parts. And that's kind of where I see it.
That's interesting to hear the two of you must get that from time to time. Do you think about that, like in the midst of what you're doing? I'm sure you get it
a lot more than me. You spoke to millions of people, but millions versus thousands. Like,
do you think about that, like that people remembering this decades later? What the words you say are actually quite important.
Yeah, it's a blessing to have been doing this for 25 years because I get to see the fruit of it, of people coming to me. I was at a school recently, the principal was like, "Hey, when you came here last, I was in high school, and now he's the principal of the place," or meeting nuns, or I've been going to confession to priests who heard my chastity talks when they were in high school, and sisters saying, "Hey, your talk was really influential to me in discovering my vocation and just clearing stuff out of my life that I didn't need, that really gave me the freedom to hear God's call to the religious life." And so it's a really, you just feel spoiled getting to hear some of the long-term stories. But in the end, it'll be received as the gospel was received. Some will spring up, but wither for lack of roots, and other ones initially like, "No, I'm not going to do that," and then they're going to respond to the call. As I see it, it's almost like, I used to live in Denver, and we'd drive up the mountain sometimes, and you drive past like a beef jerky stand, and I'm like, "Oh, that looks good." And then you keep driving, there's another person selling beef jerky out of the back of their pickup. I'm like, "Man, I could go for some beef jerky." And then you get to the third one, I'm like, "I'm pulling over." And then you drive. Like, sometimes I get to be like the third beef jerky stand in someone's life where they pull over to me, and I think, "Wow, I did the trick." Well, actually, it's those two people before you that kind of get prepared their heart. Or someone could just drive right by and like, "Oh, I didn't leave a mark." But you never know. That could have gotten one lane closer to the time they are going to pull over, and have their conversion. So you don't know where you are in that person's journey. You just want to make sure not to take too much credit or be too hard on yourself if it doesn't feel like, "Oh, that changed everybody's life." It's just do what you got to do, and then just you water it later with prayer and fasting. And a lot of the heavy lifting is supposed to be done after the talk, not during it. I think we seek too much satisfaction of immediate gratification of these conversions. And sometimes we get to see them, and, and it's beautiful, and I get to see miracles every day. But just not to give up, on the people who might, not have had as enthusiastic a reply. But after 20-something years of doing it, we've never had one disrespectful audience of 2+ million teenagers. It's just it's like you're handing out ribeye steaks in Somalia. I mean, they're starving, and you're giving them what they want. So, I understand why they're open to the message.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And you deliver it so well, you really do. With charity and clarity is the two words I always use for you. I mean, it's just like, you know how to speak to the audience, and you speak it very clear, and with, just through what the message that they need to hear. It is those stakes that you're throwing out.
And it's sensitive, but the way I look at it, it's almost like a surgery, so you kind of need your anesthesia, laughing gas. So that's all the jokes, get the humor. You get them laughing, it's like anesthesia, and then I can stick a knife in you.
Yeah.
But if I don't anesthetize you, and then I pull out the scalpel, you're going to jump off the table. And so I try to get them all numbed up with the humor, and then you can go in and make the cuts and take out the tumors that you need to. So.
Yeah, it's a gift. It's a gift. You have to do that.
You've both been doing this for so long. I'm curious, have your techniques changed over the year? Like over 25 years, would you say how you present now is substantially different than how you started?
Well, I mean, I've learned a lot along the way, but a lot is how the content has shifted in terms of the needs of things that need to be addressed that were not on the radar 5-10 years ago. It's like this hockey stick acceleration of these issues. Like, wow, like we didn't used to talk about stuff like girls struggling with pornography, the gender stuff, same-sex attraction, like wasn't really on the radar 15 years ago. And now if you don't address that stuff, it's like, what? Like, are we invisible to you? So I've really had to pivot to make sure that the talk is keeping up with the current pastoral needs of the young people.
Yeah.
How about you, Kari? Have you noticed your ministry
I would
work
absolutely agree with that. Yeah, for sure. And actually used, again, a lot of Jason's content for that. Love to bring up your latest book, Male, Female, Other. I mean, that I think has been a very pivotal role in my life, reading through that and getting content from that, having our young adults read through it last semester for other book club. And maybe if you could speak a little bit more about the content of that and your research and how you're able to present that in a society today that gets so fired up about anything that is countercultural to them, you know, to be able to share that, we want to just share a little bit about that book, because I think it's just so important and so needed, and our audience can really value a lot from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And so the reason I wrote the book is because in all these travels I was doing, I was meeting the kids struggling with gender dysphoria or identifying as trans and non-binary. I'm talking to the parents who are like, what do I do? My daughter wants a top surgery. She says she's non-binary, wants me to use they, them pronouns. Like, what the heck is going on? What did I do wrong? And just so much struggle between parents and teens of identity searches of the kids. So I thought, okay, I needed to just write a book, like a resource that you could give to a priest, that you could give to a 7th grade teacher who's got a kid in the class that says they're trans, give to the parents, give to the kid that's wrestling with gender dysphoria, to know that there's space in the church for them to navigate through these difficult identity questions. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to read like 15 books on the subject, and then I'll just combine that with the pastoral experience I've had over the years, and I'll write the book. So after finishing like the 15 or so books, I'm like, I haven't even scratched the surface. Like, I need to read 5 more books on endocrinology, 5 more on pediatric medicine, 5 more on psychology, on Marxism, on feminism, on anthropology, theology, like, because you're talking about the human person, which is so vast. And it's like, at the end, you have to surrender the fact that man is a mystery, but you can't not be competent in any of these fields if you want to speak into this subject. And so I ended up going down this rabbit hole of reading more than 20,000 pages of literature on it, from the peer-reviewed sociological studies and psychology to a lot of the stuff written by trans advocates and allies, and like, okay, where are they coming from? What's their story? I mean, listening to literally hundreds of hours of their stories on YouTube and their testimonies and their, different blogs and this and that, and just trying to really hear them out instead of just being like, okay, I need to disprove transgenderism. It's like, no. The posture we need to take is not just to disprove or dismiss, but to have a posture of listening. Okay, this person's clearly wrestling with something, and listen to that gender dysphoria with kind of a reverent curiosity, not in the sense of, okay, let's just do whatever your dysphoria tells us to do, but okay, what's the story underneath this distress? Where's this coming from? What is this telling us? And if we can listen to it with more compassion instead, and just irreverent curiosity, and I think we're going to make a lot more pastoral progress in this instead of just kind of dismissing it. Oh, gender fluid, non-binary, trans woman nonsense. You're either XX or XY. That's all there is to it. And if that's kind of our attitude, they're just going to feel erased and attacked. It's like, okay, no room for me in the church, but we've got to admit this is a perplexing issue, and it makes a lot of people just want to be like, I don't know what the heck. You do you, and I'll do me. And it's like, wait a minute, we need to have a response, like you said, that is full of charity, at the same time clarity. So you're not caving in on Catholic anthropology. You're not backing off on that. It's almost like you're holding onto their hand with one hand, you're holding onto reality with the other, and you're not letting go of either hand.
Yeah. Now, what surprised you from maybe sending? I knew you sent it out to like all the pastors of churches. I received one as a campus minister, like in my mailbox. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's the booking information for our talk in the fall. And then I open it up. I'm like, no, this is like a total like free book I just received, like totally different than I was thinking what it was in the mail. What has been some of your reaction from the pastors, from those who shepherd the young church in this, accompanying them in this walk?
Yeah, we sent it to every bishop in America, every Catholic high school theology chair, every college campus minister in America. We just raised money and just sent it everybody one for free.
Yeah.
Because the challenge is a lot of our pastors, like, they didn't go to seminary to learn how to offer pastoral care to non-binary parishioners. Is like, what the heck is that? And then you've got junior high teachers that are like, hey, I've got 3 girls in my 7th grade who say they're trans, and then they go to the principal, what's our policy? And the principal's like, I don't have a policy. Ask the pastor. Oh, I don't have a policy. Well, ask the bishop. Oh, I don't have a policy. Like, what are we doing? So everybody's kind of scrambling for answers in a way that can care for this young person and their family without alienating from the Catholic Church, while at the same time realizing, okay, I've got a responsibility also to these other 300 families in our school who don't want to be bombarded with this difficult issue, and they want their kid not to have to worry about, okay, this kid wants to use our bathroom, like, what do I do as the leader of all these souls without getting a lawsuit, dropped in my lap from this person, and CNN on the doorstep doing some expose because we're just not an inclusive environment. So it's just a lot of questions. Okay, where can we offer a reasonable compromise, and where do we need to hold our ground? And then what are the battles we need to die on, the hills we need to die on, and then what are the places where we can offer reasonable accommodations for this person? And so many questions like that. College students being like, well, I have to graduate, University of Wisconsin-Madison. You can't graduate unless you take a whole semester in gender studies. Oh. It doesn't matter if you're secondary education, engineering, nursing. You got to sit through a course of just indoctrination in gender theory, or you don't get to graduate. And so these students are sitting there hearing these messages from the gender professors of just like, what? There's 5 sexes? And wait, this is a spectrum? And like, I never heard that before. But they don't know how to stand up. And they're afraid if they do, even if they knew what to say, they would just get written off as, oh, you're the transphobic, hateful bigot. And so they just stay quiet. Even though most people are on board with them and agree with them, everybody's afraid to speak up. And so in the book, I wanted to give the language that they could use to be able to enter into this conversation, with some level of competence. And but it was surprising right in the thing of like how much I had to learn. Yeah, it requires more nuance and understanding and than any other subject I think I've ever dove into before. Yeah, and
just looking at all the references in the back, it's like
it's more than 1,000.
It's thick, like it's a couple. That's a good length. I was curious about how you got all the reading done, the research, listening. I mean, you're on the road a lot, and then you have a family, 8 children. Yep. And a wife and needs at home, and then you're doing these talks and you're going everywhere. How do you find the time to do it all?
Well, the airplane rides, great for reading. Okay. I have these bright neon yellow earplugs I put in as soon as I get in my seat, which just announces to people next to me, don't speak to me. And then I'm just locked in reading, the whole time. Then I'm driving, I'm just listening to podcasts. I'm listening to other people's stories, their witness, their testimonies from transitioners, detransitioners, all these things. So I'm not just saying, okay, let me just focus on my Catholic theology. I really just spent, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of literature that they wrote of this is why we need to transition, and this is why your side is wrong. And then just listening to a lot of their stories of, I was just in so much distress. The only thing that I could possibly find to mitigate my dysphoria was to transition, and just really trying to hear them out so that way when I do have conversations, they feel heard. They feel like, okay, this guy gets me. Like this guy knows how distressing this really is, to feel like I'm trapped in the wrong body, to feel like I'm having to put on this costume every day and sign up for this, be in this play that I never signed up for. I mean, one guy emailed me and he's like, yeah, he feels like, he said, I've never felt at home anywhere because when I'm with the guys, he says, I feel like I'm mimicking the gorillas so they don't realize that I'm not one of them. But then he says, when I'm around the girls, I feel like I'm in performance mode and I'll never truly be one of them either. And that coupled with the fact he said that I have autism, he said, you can just imagine how much of a freak I felt like growing up. And when you really listen to the stories, like your heart kind of like, wow, this must be really hard. This isn't like, you're wrong, here's your chromosome. It's like, no. Like they need to know that the church is listening to them and understands that there's a story there. And it's not to say, okay, well then go ahead and get puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and double mastectomies and then all their problems go away. No, we've got to be very honest about like, no. Do not use the body as a false target of intervention. That it's almost like, hey, that's the problem is my breast. That's the problem is this. And once we just get rid of that, life is going to be peachy. And then you follow these individuals after the procedures, and their suicide rate climbs to 19 times higher than the general population. And it's like, okay, why is this not working? And what could work for someone who's really struggling with this? So all the research was, I think, just really necessary to learn that language to be able to speak to their hearts.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, in some ways, it's almost like reviewing the tape, right? Like in the locker room a little bit. Like you get to see the other side so that you can, be able to know where they're coming from and to I don't want to say like plan an attack because that's not what it is, but to like be able to meet them where they're at and now walk with them.
Yeah, because in the end it's not really us them. Yeah. It's like all of us have a disintegration in our sexuality in one way or another. And it's not like, hey, I got it together because I know I'm a man.
Yeah.
Or like when it comes to same-sex attractions, thinking like, my masculinity is defined by how attracted I am to women. Because like I almost wish that was the case because then I could be like, wow, I'm such a man because I think women are beautiful. It's like, no. That's not the gauge of your masculinity. And so if they can hear us explain like, all of us have a disintegration between, our bodies and our souls, and it manifests in all kinds of different ways. And we're in this boat together. And your disintegration might look different than mine, but like this is not like they say like a hospital or a museum for saints. The church is more of a hospital for sinners. And so if we have more of a humble attitude, then I think they'll be like, okay, well, I'll walk with you instead of just like, oh, I've got all my stuff together. Come on in my church and I'll fix you. It's like, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, you wonder why they're fleeing towards the LGBT clubs and alliance groups on campus because there they can find the sense of identity, community, and mission. And those are such core needs of the human person that if the church is not offering that to them, then they're going to go find it elsewhere. That's why there's such an anaphylactic reaction if you try to question the ideologies underneath. It's like, this is hate speech and you're guilty of genocide. It's like, whoa, no. I'm just saying I don't want to use your pronouns. Oh, you're violent. Like, what, huh? No, I would never lay a finger on you. Oh, you hate me. No, I don't. Like, why this big reaction? Because in a sense, what they feel like we're pulling away from them is their identity, their community, their mission. And then if they don't have that, what do they have? And so this idea of a gender has even become like a secular soul to them. That like this is their soul. This is like the most permanent reality of who they are beyond even their body. And so it's almost replaced the soul in spirituality, an internal sense of a gender identity. And so that's why we've got to understand what we're dealing with, why there's that sensitivity. So a lot of listening is needed, not just preaching. We got to hear where they're coming from to be effective apostles.
Yeah, so true. Wow, this has been great. And
it really has.
We're already rounding down to the end here. Yeah.
If people want to learn more, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, our website is just chastity.com. Okay. We also have a podcast called Lust is Boring, and I interview all kinds of guests on these topics and more. But go to chastity.com and then get the book Male, Female, Other, different books on dating, relationships, breaking free from pornography, parenting teenagers, practicing chastity, starting over, healing from sexual abuse, theology of the body, John Paul II. So we've got tons of resources for families, singles, young adults, priests, teachers, curriculum, all kind of stuff at chastity.com.
Yeah, I was hanging out on the website a bit this week, and I have to say that is a full service website you got
it's
there.
Robust.
That is there's lots there that not to me. You have podcasts, videos, books. It's really and all of your speaking engagements. I saw your calendar. That is You are a well-traveled man.
It keeps me out of trouble.
Yellow earbuds. Look for the guy with the yellow earbuds. So they know it's you.
I had a question about tonight's event, just out of curiosity. Do the kids sit with their parents, or do they sit separate from the parents?
The teens sit in the front and parents right behind them.
Okay.
Because otherwise it gets super awkward. Let me tell you a chastity joke while you're sitting next to your mom, and then they're, they get super awkward. So we want the kids sitting with their friends so they're comfortable, and then they're more receptive. So.
Yeah.
But we want the parents in the room, just right behind the teens.
Yeah,
okay.
You know your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time you do that, you're like, yeah, we're never going to do that again. Parents in the back.
Yeah, they get a lot quieter.
Yeah. I had that when you were telling the story. I'm like, man, that's got to be a unique situation, but separate out of it.
Yeah. You're a parent of a teenage boy.
Yeah, I walk out of the room whenever something a nerve comes up. I know what's about to happen, particularly with old moves. I'm like, he does not want me standing next to him right now. But then we also have conversations. So the benefit I have now is that I take him to school every day, and I have for the last year. And it's actually been. I'm going to tell everybody right now, every parent right now, if you have the opportunity to drive your kid to school, and I have a 45-minute drive to take him to school, that is the best time to be with him because it's first thing in the morning. He's not grumbly yet. He's tired, but he's not grumbly yet. But we have had some of the best conversations, and nothing is off the topic, and it's nice. So listen to your kids and chat with your kids, folks.
So needed. And as a parent of a 5-year-old, something that I learned is like listen to them now, because you're going to want them to listen. They're going to want to listen to them later. So if you don't start that now, they're going to just see, all right, mom doesn't listen, dad doesn't listen. They're always walking away from me. So for the young parents out there, listen to them now, because you're going to want to listen to them later.
Yeah, I heard the average child will spend more time watching TV by the time they turn 6 years old than they will spend talking to their parents over the course of their entire life, to their father.
That sounds about
Turn
accurate.
Off the screen and start talking and listening.
That's right.
So
well, Jason, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a great presentation tonight, and good luck with everything going forward.
We just ask all the listeners, please pray for the fruitfulness of the events here and elsewhere.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening. God bless.